My name is BethaLaRue, and today we're gonna talk paranormal experiences. I have a feeling this is going to be a several-part series, so let's just call this the beginning. So, I know this is like a big fad thing to talk about. However, paranormal experiences are not a fad in my life. They just are a thing. I'll start from the beginning, just like I said. I have experienced the paranormal. Paranormal experiences for me have been happening for a really long time. I can probably remember paranormal experiences for myself as far back as probably 8 or 9 years old. And they weren't scary. A lot of the women in my family, I'll preface with this, or those who have been born female, have a heightened sense being beyond the veil, essentially. Anything that you can't see with the natural eye. I call it just having a wider third eye. I believe everyone has some kind of, sense of, that some people just have like a smaller third eye than others, and some people's is like this big. A lot of the people in my family just have a wider opening of a third eye. My mom has it, and I in turn also have it. So I spent a lot of my youth as, like I said, from what I can remember as far back as like 8 years old, probably even earlier, but 8 is really when I started noticing it, because that's when I learned what a ghost was. I just thought that I could see figures that other people couldn't, and that was not weird to me. It was fine. But I discovered what ghosts were and spirits were at around 8. I just kind of became aware of them. So that being said, I have a very empathic soul. I actually do consider myself an empath. I have been told I am an empath, and this is not just with spirits. This has to do with the living as well. I connect very well with the living, and I do readings for people. I am asked often to do tarot readings, and I also do some scrying and things like that. And it's just something that has come naturally to me. It's not something that I was raised on. I just understand people's emotions. I understand, just people when I see them. And I never thought of it as like something supernatural or a psychic ability, because my family never presented it that way. Being raised in a really religious family, they were just like, you are very sensitive to other people's needs. And so that's always how it was presented to me. So I wouldn't consider myself some kind of psychic. I wouldn't consider myself some kind of reader. I'm BethaLaRue, and I'm very attentive to people, and I understand, spiritually what people are feeling and what they need. And I just help them to understand it. I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist. People just come to me and ask for spiritual guidance sometimes. And I'm okay with giving it, because it's all about being open and all that stuff. Some people would say that that's like scamming, but honestly, I don't go out of my way to try and find people. Sometimes it's just the people that I meet at the, cash wrap at a Whole Foods. So that being said, that's what has to do with the living. As far as those beyond, dead, spiritual, and otherwise, I've always had a sense of when things are around. I do have a mild form of synesthesia where I'm able to see other people's, I see the color of the tone that they're talking to me, and every tone has a different, hue to it, essentially. That being said, I also am able to see that in spirits, even if spirits aren't talking. Sometimes they will present themselves to me. I remember in a house that I lived in a long time ago, there was a male spirit that would be in the downstairs area. He wasn't aggressive and he wasn't like super excited to see you. He's a very neutral spirit. So he was just an impression. I consider that an impression on a home. In this same house, there was also a negative spirit that lived there, and it only stayed in one bedroom of the house. Luckily, I did not have that bedroom. But it is the bedroom that my mother was staying in with her then husband. And actually, years later, we were both talking about, the spirits that were in that house. And she said, oh, well, the neutral spirit was your stepdad's dad. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, it made perfect sense to me. I had seen him, he had presented himself, but I never really, knew who he was. And then I also talked about, and then there was also that dark spirit that was downstairs all the time in your bedroom. And she 100% confirmed that multiple times in the night she would wake up and there would be a dark figure. Not exactly a shadow person, but there would be a dark figure around her bed somewhere, looking at her husband. And so she saw these figures as well. So that was, it's interesting that years later, when I say years, I'm talking 10 years later, we were talking about these spirits and we both vividly remember them. I had never told her about them when I was younger or anything. When we moved out of that house, and it was pretty traumatic. I was going through a lot of emotional stuff at that time. I became way more open. It awoke something in me and opened me up to a lot of energy. And that's when I started getting night terrors or sleep pressing or sleep paralysis, as it's called. And in this new house that we were living in, there would always be a figure at the end of my bed whenever I would wake up from the sleep paralysis. And I would cry, being the Gryffindor that I am, I would cry out for my mom. I couldn't move, but I could speak. And so I would cry out for my mom, and my mom would always tell me, Bethany, I can't tell it to go away. You have to tell it. You're the one who it wants, and you're the one who has the power in this moment. Don't give it the power to overthrow you. So I told it to go away. And it went away. And it tried to visit me a couple more times. I don't know what this spirit essentially wanted with me, but it wasn't friendly. It was it was a full body experience of absolutely, I would shake and I would be in terror and it would just tighten me up. And once I was given permission to tell it to go away by my mom, I told it to go away as many times as I could. And one night I said, don't come back. You are not welcome. Go away. And it never came back. So then that's when I learned the power of my power here. Because the thing is that anything that comes through the veil is invited in some way. At that time, I can recognize that I was inviting a lot of negative energy because I was feeling a lot of negative things. And being the empath and the extreme spiritual person that I am, where I'm just, my soul reaches out and connects with a lot of spirits, because I'm going to say I'm approached regularly by, spirits, and I have to tell them, I'm not here to help you. There's not much that I can do. But, please go away. And it works. They don't. So at that point I learned the power of what I have to release spirits from my presence, so to speak. I guess it's a good place to start as far as spiritual experiences and where I'm at. But honestly, I've been living with spirits for years. I've been living with seeing them, speaking with them, hearing them, and it's not like a psychosis thing. Like, I'm not constantly hearing sounds. It's just, it's those tiny little whispers in your ear, or feeling that little buzz in your head. And a lot of people just brush them off as nothing. And there are a lot of people out there that are actually way more sensitive to the other side of the veil than they may think or they may believe. It's just about being in tune with yourself, being in tune with something that's greater than yourself, and acknowledging its existence, but also knowing that you have the power to either invite it or to tell it to go away. And so, with that being said, this is the beginning, a new series. Not sure what to call it. I don't know, we'll call it The Veil. The Paranormal Veil. If you want to hear more about the paranormal experiences that I have had, or even I have some stories from family members that are very interesting. If you are interested in any of that, you can leave a comment below, like, subscribe, touch the bell. I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff I guess you can do. You can find me on Instagram at BethaLaRue, and you can also DM me there and be like, hey, liked your paranormal stuff. So yeah, if you want to hear more paranormal stuff, like this video. And love and light to you, and blessed be.